how somebody wants to make sure you read the book?
Yeah.
All right. Page two.
Focus.
I'll give you a book. Oh, yeah. She called me out. Yeah, let's give Melissa a copy so she can see.
You ain't not paying attention. You can get
All
down.
right. We're going.
Time to
Is it 220?
How you gonna get a
220. Yeah, I remember reading.
Thank you.
Okay. And you know, this is how you know people prank you. So she says, coaches tend to give us less advice and instead help you to find your own answers. They act as sounding boards, whether about your vision and goals or about challenges you face. They also act as mirrors, reflecting things you can't necessarily see about yourself. This kind of reflection can be uncomfortable, but it's also an opportunity for personal growth. Now that was an opportunity that we could have just left the rest of that alone.
We're rolling.
But the best coaches don't just tell you what you want to hear. They challenge you to step into your, is that 220? Oh, 228.
And I'm not finding what you're saying.
Listen. I told you you're getting pranked here.
Okay.
Okay, now.
All right, page 220.
Yes, 228.
We're rolling.
Looks like 220 to me, so I want you all to pray for me after the service. Okay.
And to the right.
I'm not wearing it right now. Okay.
Thank you.
So the best coaches don't just tell you what you want to hear, they challenge you to step up into your fullest potential and help you stay accountable to your stated value and goals. I'll never forget Rev Kev gently calling me out for being late to our meeting
Me too, Randy.
and not having my homework completely done. And I read that. That must have had an effect. Did you
No, I don't.
remember that?
Do you,
Think I'm just a
So
would
silly.
you like for me to tell you what you said to me?
Yeah, okay.
You forgive me.
Red Kev asked
I'll
me
forget you.
to show up at a level 5 as though my very life depended on it. That I needed to come fully prepared. Not partially prepared, but fully prepared. Yes.
So like, I was reading this, I was all into it, I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. And then that new moment of, but it's in love, right? It's always in love.
I knew that then and I know that now, but it was the reminder that I needed to reprioritize my intentions. That I needed for my intentions to be at a level 5 so that I would show up at a level 5.
Wow. All right. That's a good. Has she shown up at a level 5? So, Melissa, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we all back? I just wanted to use that as an opportunity. Make sure we're all back. Are we
Yes, sir.
with our live streaming?
Yes, sir, we're rolling.
Let's give some love to our live streamers. Thank you for tuning in, guys. So we are sitting down with Melissa Hall, who has written the book Dear Drew, Creating a Life Greater Than Grief, or Bigger Than Grief. And she spent the time with us today helping us to get acquainted with her story, but also with this new concept of grief as a language, right? And so we were kind of looking at some of the vocabulary that grief guides us into. You also talked about the moment you felt the shift. Would you call that shifting a spiritual experience?
Probably one of the most profound moments of my life because I was struggling with my relationship with God. I was struggling to feel His presence at all. the loss was so devastating and it didn't make sense, and I didn't really trust God at that point. And so when I called out to God in that moment, it was my final, like, if God had not shown up, I don't know what my relationship with him would have been like today. But God came into that room and his presence was right there with me. And when I tell you that a peace filled my heart that I didn't even understand, I mean that. I literally felt my heart expand and a peace just embraced me that I had never known. And it has stayed with me.
And
So
that's,
yes, absolutely. It was a spiritual awakening, an embrace from the divine, a moment of undeniable love. The love that I questioned, God brought forward in that moment in such a profound way that there was no way for me to deny it.
would you up to that point have, well, you told me you were angry with God, you all weren't necessarily on speaking terms.
Well, we were, but it wasn't nice.
So you know, did you feel, well, let's talk about that for just a minute, because I think that some of us may be able to locate ourselves in moments like that. So I want to make a comment, and then I'd like to, have you say more. If you do find yourself in your journey being angry with God, or really finding yourself not on speaking terms with God, or turning your back on God or your spiritual path, I want you to consider that to be evidence of the profound closeness that you have with God. You agree? Don't we fall out? Fahiza is here right now. Give Fahiza, Eileen, some love. Sitting there looking great. She told me something that's just the best thing ever. She said, as close as gums and teeth are, and they were made for each other, gums and teeth, even they fall out from time to time. Right? And so that closeness that we have with God can happen, we can have a falling out with God, if you will. And what I want to suggest, that it does not cause God to pull away from you. I believe it's evidence of just how much you trust God. Because if you believe that God has all the power to do anything and everything, and you're still here after the fallout, after maybe the harsh words or the pulling away from, I think God is large enough to hold your anger, hold the bitterness, hold you in the resentment and all of that. Want to say more about that? That's what I want to know.
After that moment, I really was very changed, and that change, I didn't fully understand at first. I felt better. I felt more loved by God, but I still was searching for this answer, for some sort of tangible truth or takeaway from that experience. in that moment, that epiphanal moment, that's when everything in my relationship with God really changed.
So, who are you now? So now you've come into this kind of awakening. You're not under the pressure any longer. You are feeling your connection with God. How do you start building your life back with a big part of your identity now being altered?
Well, if you'll recall, I'm facing a divorce at this point, and so I still,
At that point.
at that point,
Mhm. I'm the other person in that. Go ahead.
yes, and I was afraid of my future. I was uncertain about how things were going to look, what my life would become. And then I made a decision because I believe that we all have the power of our choice. And I intentionally made the choice to see the future not as something fearful, but to approach it with deep curiosity. What can it become? Where will my future take me? What kind of impact do I want my life to leave? And that's where I began.
Wow. So, if you're having questions or things are coming up, you want to comment, just raise your hand and I'll get you. So, big distinction, just want to land it. You made a conscious decision not to be fearful of the future, but you shifted fear and anxiety into curiosity.
Yes, it made sense to me to, if the fear of the unknown was going to be present, I decided that it wouldn't be fear, it would be curiosity, because curiosity invites choice. I get to choose which direction I'm going to, to go. I can choose not only the quality of my thoughts, I can choose the quality of my relationships, I can choose the level of faith. I have all these choices, and inside of those choices, that curiosity concept really helped to focus my intention on the future as this unknown but friendly possibility.
All right. Do we have some amens in the room? All right. Anybody want to comment on that? I'm curious if any of this touches you and you might want to comment or you have a question related to that. Anyone? Yeah, but he's, okay. Hold on, we're going to get you on the mic because our live streamers are.
Often with the passing of someone.
Can she stand up?
Do you need her to stand up?
Yes.
Okay, they need to. You ready?
Okay, Sean, pick her up.
All right, they got you.
Often with the passing of someone, we have feelings of guilt. Not just, even if it's not related to something you may feel associated with. What you didn't say, what you did say to them. How did you overcome that?
Overcoming guilt, okay.
I gave myself permission to continue the conversation. I wrote him letters. I wrote him a letter every day for the first year of his passing.
Wow.
And I just continued to share my thoughts and my heart with him. I apologized for the things that I felt I got wrong. I celebrated the moments that I cherished. But I just continued the conversation. I never stopped talking to him.
The connection, okay. So, Fahiza is pointing out, last week we were talking about the distinction between attachment and connection. And we attach to the physical form. And we feel that when the physical form has passed away from us, we also lose the connection. But this is not true. You want to say more about that?
No, that is probably one of the greatest gifts that my life has, revealed to me, is that not even death can stop the power of love and the connection that it creates. I have a relationship with Drew to this day. Not only is he carried in my his story and my journey will touch you in a way that it will make an impactful difference in how you look at grief, how you engage with grief, and how you stay connected to your loved ones. Because they are not gone. We just have to reach for them differently now.
Oh, say that again.
They are not gone. We have to learn to reach for them differently.
I see you, and I'm just sitting with that one for a minute. Did you all get that? Okay. I saw Carla first, and I think I saw Sheila right after that. Carla? And then we want to make sure that Sheila gets the mic.
Okay, great. I know you mentioned anger when you were talking about being angry with God. I know in my situation, when I lost my husband, I finally hit a stage where I allowed myself to be angry with him for not taking care of himself enough to where he got ill. What do you say about allowing to be able to process the anger in order to move past it?
I'm going to go back to, I wrote about it. I wrote to God, and I just told him how hurt I was, how disappointed I felt, how abandoned this pain left me feeling. And as I was telling God off, if you will, this is crazy as that sounds, I felt his love. And these memories kept flooding back. Memories of my beautiful son's eyes, his smile, his sticky fingers, his laughter. And that radically changed my feelings toward God, because what was happening in that moment for me was the reminder that not even death could separate this love, this connection of love. And although it did take me time, it was the beginning of the foundation where I really became aware of God's profound love for me. That he could hold it. He could take me being frustrated and angry and distant and still remain close to me. And that's how I dealt with it. You're welcome.
Sheila?
When you talked about moving from fear to courage, I remember thinking in my mind, a really specific example of that, how you switched back, how, when it came up, when fear came up, how you made that choice. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
At this particular time, it's only about 8 weeks after Drew's accident, and I was terrified of not knowing how my marriage was going to, work out. I didn't know if I was going to be divorced or if we would eventually work things out. I was afraid of being labeled as not only the mother who fell asleep, but as the woman who lost it all. Lost her family. There was a lot to sit with. I was so uncertain about what was to come in my future. But at some point, the fear and the worry, I recognized I was this spinning top. I was just spinning, and staying in the same place. But I wanted to get somewhere, and so I knew that I was going to have to figure out what that would take to go from this spinning top to actually have a trajectory, to have some forward momentum. And that's when curiosity really came into play. I could become curious about what could happen if I stopped being that spinning top and I started to point towards a decision that felt right and aligned, or a conversation that I needed to have to gain clarity. I let curiosity be my guide which allayed my fear.
Thank you. We have another hand?
Good morning.
You need to, do you mind standing? Oh, because they're just want to make sure you're captured. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you so much for your share. And heartfelt. The question I had is, you're talking a lot about grief and your process and understanding it. I wanted to know, can you speak a little bit more about how you handle the guilt? In terms of, is it infused in the grief? Is it separate from? Is it, how did you, because that would be deep also, I would think.
When I talked about grief as a punishment, or grief is not a punishment, it is proof of love. For the longest time, my guilt felt like punishment. My guilt was the irrefutable proof that I had made this tragic error in judgment that had unintended consequences that I couldn't undo. And I wanted to undo it. I wanted a do-over. I wanted to have my son back. And because I couldn't create those circumstances, the guilt just ate me alive. It just really was unrelenting. When the punishment started to lift is when I truly came into alignment with the truth that it is proof of love. The guilt gave way when the memories of the love, I would look at photographs. I remember I intentionally carved out 15 minutes a day. That's all I could handle at the time. 15 minutes where all I could think about were things that I was grateful for. Whether it be about Drew, or Devin, or my life, or my husband, I made the intentional choice to focus on the positive aspects, and it quieted my grief. And so then I learned to expand that, and I would begin my mornings with 15 minutes, and if I felt off, at 11 o'clock in the morning, I would take another 15 minutes. But I just made the choice that I was going to shift that feeling and those thoughts and redirect them into a more edifying and loving presence and thought. And that's how I quieted my guilt. But let's be honest. Forgiving yourself for falling asleep and then your son tragically loses his life it's a journey. It's a journey. I reached out to Rev Cat for help because I was struggling at the time. And through study and prayer and journaling, I reconnected to not only my heart, but to my relationship with God. And that's when the guilt stops knocking at my door. And it's the only time. And that's how it stays away. I cling to the memories. I cling to my relationship. I cling to my faith. And I also share my story, which has also brought a tremendous amount of peace, which allays the guilt.
I want to just pause for a moment and just illuminate a point you made about self-forgiveness and how important that is in any process where we might be regretful about a decision we made or an accident that occurred or anything. Forgiving oneself, it is a part of the way we start to grow spiritually. It dissolves guilt. It absolves you of the ways in which you did not show up, at least in your own judgment. But it absolves you of that kind of self-judgment that we have. You get what I'm saying? And if you're moving fact, the unforgiven soul, I want you to hear this, the unforgiven soul is an invitation for punishment. If you're moving through life with a spirit of unforgiveness toward yourself, you're subconsciously inviting punishment upon yourself. Guilty consciousness is an invitation for some form of punishment. And so, when I forgive myself, I am not saying that I was right or wrong or any of that. I am saying that holding myself hostage to my lowest moment does not guarantee me a bright future or anybody else, right? So it is a type of self-liberation, okay? And no one can do it for you. It's something we really have to walk with. And hear Jesus' words. For me, I hear Jesus' words saying, neither will I accuse you. Go your way. Sin no more. Sinning meaning error in judgment, as you mentioned, or the mark being missed, as we use in music. Okay, just wanted to pause there. I thought it was very powerful also, your reflection of when you said, let's be honest, and you went in to describe what happened, and I could even feel a peace in you as you made that description. It's powerful. It's powerful sitting with Melissa here on this side of this journey. And it's just beautiful to see you grow.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know it's a help to a lot of us. And anyone else? We're doing questions for Melissa. Yes. Let's get you a mic. You don't have to get a mic because our live streamers are listening. Carlos, coming. Thank you.
My question is, what do you do when the anniversary of his passing comes along? How do you honor his life, aside from the book, but when that time comes every year, how do you and your family deal with his passing?
Thank you for that question. We celebrate his life. We have Rocky Road ice cream for breakfast. We have, we start with Rocky Road ice cream, and then for dinner we have beef raviolis. And we also make contributions to organizations that support families who are going through the grieving process.
And Melissa, you have also dedicated your life to being a water safety advocate. You want to say more about that?
Yes, I also have dedicated a lot of time into researching water safety education and how best to distribute that information. And so I have free resources on my website, which is melissahall.com. I want every parent to have the education that they need in order to be an advocate of safety in their own home, especially around water. In Arizona, we are growing very quickly as a state. And in my community, Yuma, we have a lot of farmland that's being converted now into communities, neighborhoods. And they're building in farmland. So homes are going up, and there are irrigation canals all around my community. There's over 220 miles of open waterways. So I spend my time also talking about water safety education, bringing awareness to the lesser obvious dangers that are around us at all times. How often do you think of a water fountain as being a potential threat? Not very often. So I talked about the lesser known threats: open irrigation canals, fountains, buckets, baby pools, any sort of standing water enough for a child if they are face down to drown. And so I spend my time making people very aware that the greatest protection that you can ever have is awareness, and then create multiple layers of barriers. Advocate for a water watcher. If you're ever like at a backyard pool party or if you're at the beach, you must have a water watcher, a dedicated water watcher, and never overwhelm your water watchers by giving them so many children that they can't keep track. I recommend no more than one water watcher to 2 to 3 children, depending on their age. I think that we have to be honest about what it would take for us to really teach our children how to be safe around water. They need to be in swimming lessons early. They need to be taught how to respect water, not fear it, but respect it, so that they can be safe. And then I talk about Drew's story, and it's really interesting. I had a really beautiful moment not very long ago where Drew would be 30 years old. His birthday was August 15th, and he turned 30. And I've been posting about my brief experience and my journey of healing for quite some time, and one of his classmates, so this is a child that I knew, Nathaniel. He was 4 and a half when this accident happened, and he reached out to me now as a grown man and talked to me about how he's never forgotten Drew's story and how he teaches his children how to be safe around water. And so that was a full circle moment for me, where the gift of Drew's story is now being played out in the education of children and keeping them safe. And that was a beautiful, beautiful experience for me.
Thank you for that. Thank you for these questions. Any more? Yes. Let's get it.
Speaking of anniversaries, my daughter passed away in April, which was my birthday month, and then her birthday month is coming up in September. I don't know how to celebrate her birthday or not. I don't know.
My heart wants to just hold you in your heart. I understand the depth of the pain. I think however you choose to celebrate or honor or reflect on your daughter's life, so long as it's rooted in love and appreciation and gratitude, because you have the blessing of being her mother, right? It's a gift. It's a gift. I think that you will find the ways to celebrate, whether it's you plant a tree or you plant flowers or you make a contribution or you choose to volunteer. Those are all avenues that take us, at least for me, it took me out of just the loss, and it was a contribution to the beauty of their lives. And that's how I chose to look at, the holidays and birthdays and anniversaries. And I will be honest with you, in the beginning it was very hard to know. I tried things, and there were some things that were a great success, but the one thing that I always did was I wrote. I wrote him a letter. And then I collected those letters over the years, and I could reflect back on that first anniversary, that first birthday, that first Christmas, that first New Year's Eve. And I could see my growth in the progression of my honoring of his life over time. And I think that's an important thing to begin, especially now, because you'll be able to look back and not only see your growth in the future, but you're also going to see the evidence of the love that you still have.
Okay. All right. I probably should have stopped the coffee. Oh, I would love, after this, if we just had our own time.
Absolutely.
But I heard you say something, and I just want to punctuate that. And this is how it goes down. You said, in losing Drew, I found, I'm paraphrasing, I found God and a newfound purpose. And I think that this may be a door. So in Melissa's case, one of the things she chose to do was to become an advocate and an activist around this work of water safety, establishing really using a tragedy as a way of forming a legacy, you know, thank you for the ring, forming a legacy, you know, in her son's memory. And as you're thinking about the causes around your daughter's transition, might it bring you to a place of exploring your relationship with God? And might it bring you to a place of listening to see if there is a purpose and a new calling for you out of this? Just a consideration, not like an assignment or anything, but just kind of having you take a look, because it may be the opening of a whole new world for you. Okay.
I will say that service, being in service to others, being in service to safety and water safety specifically, education, did give me a sense of purpose. I didn't realize it at the time, but the writing, my journaling, gave way to an entire new form of expression for me. I found my voice inside of this experience, and it was unshakable. It was mine. I led through every one of those minutes after his transition, and I really found my truth, and I rediscovered something that was hard for me at the time, but I discovered how much I needed to love myself. And my purpose went from just being a mother and giving to others, but also to remember and prioritize what I give to myself. I need to give myself grace. I extend it. I extend grace to so many people. Why can't I extend it to myself? Why can't I take a moment and say, Melissa, you are a good mother. You are a good mother the day before, the day of, and every day after. You are a good mother. You loved him. He knew you loved him. He was full of life. And I focused only on his loss for a long time, but when I stopped, not only could I appreciate everything that I had been blessed with in terms of the time I did have with him, but I also started to reclaim the part of me that I had abandoned.
Yes, we have a question over here. Let's get you a mic.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing your story and your journey through grief. As a mother, there's a lot of validation that comes that you seek from those around you. They validate you as a mother, and that's very meaningful in so many ways. How did you work through situations where maybe that validation was removed from you, or people were very, very harsh towards you?
There was a period of time when I felt very much alone because my family, Joey's family, the questions that they had felt like judgments. What were you thinking? how could you let that happen? Why didn't you lock the back door? Questions that on the surface, I was even asking myself. But they landed differently when it was coming from someone who wasn't there, who didn't participate in that day. And I finally found it within myself to say, hold on a minute. Hold on a moment, please. I was doing the best I could. I was exhausted. I did ask for help. I did ask for my husband to come home the night before. I told him how exhausted I was. I told him how sick Kevin was. Not that I was trying to shift the blame, but I was trying to create the space where I could say to them, I reject that. I reject that judgment. I know. God knows what unfolded that day. And even Drew knows. And I refused to allow myself to take those questions on as a judgment anymore. And once I made that distinction and I set that boundary, my interactions with them were profoundly changed. Because I said, I am a good mother. I was a good mother the day before. I was a good mother that day, and I remain a good mother. There's nothing about your question that I will interpret as judgment, because I know the truth at that moment.
Powerful. Everybody good? So, as always, by the way, let me just point out a little bit. I'll give you a little peek in the book, and that is, Melissa's been referencing all along, right, that she's written letters to Drew. So you will discover at the beginning of every chapter, she gives you a little taste of part of those letters. So you can get your own kind of connection to that. But it might be helpful for some of us who want to pick up the pen and start journaling again as a way to work through our set of emotions that may be stuck. I am a journalholic. I've got journals on top of journals on top of journals. I've been journaling since I was 12. I create journals. If anybody's done work with me, you know that my books are journals, because there is a type of catharsis that takes place as you are writing it down. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a powerful, I use it as a spiritual practice. And of course you can go back and look at your own growth after a period of time. I have committed myself to leaving my journals in my will for my children, but there are a couple of them that I'm going to not leave. They don't need to know what I was thinking when I was 17. They're like, that's right, see, I knew. No. Okay. The book speaks to me in some very personal ways, and I want to read to you all my favorite line from the book. What's that line?
About 10 minutes.
10 more minutes? Okay, very good. All right. This is on page
220.
Okay. All right. And Melissa has just spoken earlier about her husband, she and her husband, and they ultimately are divorcing. And just since we got to rush along here, she talks about, what happens in their relationship after divorce. Who they chose to be. And so given my story, I'm like, I am reading this. And here's what she says. Despite 220, the second proper paragraph, okay, and I'm jumping down to the sentence that says, I didn't want to go to war. I wanted to let go. This is my favorite line. I wanted to let go of the parts of us that would never work, allow for the parts of us that could work, and heal what I needed to so that we could both flourish. Ooh. Let me read that again for me, because mine is underlined in my book. I wanted to let go of the parts of us that would, what does it say? Never work. Allow for the parts that could work, and heal what I needed to so that we could both flourish. Now she's writing this in the context of deciding to continue to be engaging with her spouse after the divorce. They stayed in business together. Want to say, you know?
Yes, Joey approached me with the idea of continuing to work together after our divorce. Joey is a dentist, and I run the business side of the dental practices, and he does the clinical work. At the time, it was the last thing that I wanted. I just wanted to kind of create the separation, create the space for me to just heal and move on. But this idea of continuing to work together, something about that made me pause and really question, well, can I do that? Can I really do that? I understand why it would be beneficial to do that from a financial aspect, but do I want to take on trying to manage a relationship with somebody that I've just ended a marriage with? And then I was struck by this idea, well, I'm already doing that. You know, we had already created that separation in that space. We were a family, we were living in the same house in separate rooms, functioning as this pseudo couple. I had already created that space, and we were just going to make things a bit more permanent. He was going to move out of the house. And in that decision, and in that awareness, I recognized, well, we work great together. We really do have this ability to see challenges and find solutions that support not only each other, but our children. And when I looked at it that way, I already knew I was doing what he was asking. He was just asking me to continue after the marriage ended. And I thought, okay, I can do hard things. I can do really hard things. And this was a challenge. And so I approached it with curiosity.
How did you deal with the critics?
Oh, there were a lot of critics. Even my attorney thought I was crazy. Absolutely thought I was crazy. But I'll say this. I think one of the most gratifying moments of my life post-divorce was at our son, Devin, who is now married. He's now married. He is married to a wonderful, wonderful woman, and we were at his wedding. And we were dancing on the dance floor. And we were smiling and laughing and just enjoying the moment. And then I went to the ladies' room, and a woman who watched us dance, who knew our journey, she came to me in the restroom and she said, "How do you do it? How is it that you can dance and smile and be here with your ex-husband after everything that's transpired in your marriage? How can you do it?" And I said, "Joey is one of my best friends. Why on earth would I want to take the love that brought us together, that has now taken new form in friendship, and limit the joy that I can experience with him in these types of settings? I don't have to pick, or my children don't have to feel awkward about the two of us being in the room together, because we're a united front. We have united in this friendship that supports and sustains not only our family, but our finances, and it works for us. But it's a choice. It's a choice to choose to let that flourish and not let the pain of choices or mistakes or conversations cloud my ability to see Joey as someone who is worthy of love, worthy of grace, just like I need grace, and I deserve love. And we have found a beautiful friendship after our marriage ended that I didn't anticipate and I didn't expect, but I'm deeply grateful for.
Look at God. Give Melissa Hall some love and appreciation. Oh, listen. Hey, but you know what? That's what we're all about up in here. Did you hear what I'm saying? You didn't come to Uni of Sacramento not to learn how to work miracles. I'm here for the miracle. You understand? I am here for the miracle.
Sincerely, I mean that so sincerely. Joey is a cherished friend. He's a cherished friend. He's not somebody I tolerate, somebody I have to deal with. He's somebody that I value. He's somebody that I respect, and I cherish the friendship that we have come to know.
I wanted to say this. When you're reading this book, and I happen to know Melissa, but this is kind of a challenge and one of the issues for all of us. When you're reading this book, you're going to see that she did her work. That's going to help you see yourself. This book will help you to see how much work you are doing or not doing, and how much work you may have left to do. That it's also going to offer you tools to be able to do that work. Okay? I have to wrap this up. Let me say happy birthday, Deshaun. We didn't sing to you. Happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Thank you, Melissa, for joining us. We're going to ask Melissa to go to the patio there so that she can autograph your books and spend a little more time with you. And you just never know. There may be another author coming before us before too long. You just never know. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all for your questions.